coming to the realization that, yeah, feeling high or feeling good or feeling light, like, that's great, but that's not all that I want to feel. And feel this kind of love and acceptance and understanding come back for like the darker aspects, the softer aspects, the parts that are hidden. That was really quite eye-opening for me to just realize that I don't need to chase this lightness anymore. Hedonism is a really interesting aspect of life. It's something that people have struggled with for centuries. And essentially, hedonism is the consistent pursuit of pleasure, just for the sake of pursuing pleasure without any boundaries. Hedonism is closely related to sexuality and sexual pursuits, as well as drugs. Hedonism has popped up and been a lot more acceptable in certain times in human history, including the end of the Roman ages. And honestly, today, especially in certain places, I think it is becoming very popular and very big. Namely, one place where I live, which happens to be San Francisco. I've noticed hedonism come out in people's sexuality. San Francisco is very sexually open. You know, I have a hard time labeling anything as good or bad because I tend to see things in the general perspective, or like a much larger perspective, where good or bad is quite subjective to the person, and also there are good and bad is necessary in the balance of life. Good and bad are just waves or two aspects of life that give it meaning and the change needed to adapt. For example, obviously, a lot of things happening right now can be seen as bad. You know, war can be seen as bad, but sometimes war sets the stage for something good to happen. And without that war, the goodness that came out of it would never have come. So both good and bad are needed, essentially. And that's why I'm not going to label hedonism as bad, because I think it will lead to good things. But from my own personal experience, being around this and kind of exploring it from a perspective of being curious and not being, you know, raised in this type of environment, it's been really interesting and also quite challenging, because I have so much resistance against it, so many subconscious and even conscious ideas about why it's bad or wrong or, you know, going to hurt me in some way. And this is a lot of social conditioning, right? Because we've gotten gradually freer as the centuries have gone on. But I mean, if you think about it, just 100 years ago or so, being gay was not okay. And that's, you know, pretty okay in most places now. And I think obviously there is a spectrum with like how hedonistic something can get. I don't necessarily think being gay is hedonist, and I think a lot of even kind of opening the door to this conversation can be really tricky. And, you know, I'm not trying to offend anyone or try to tell anyone what's wrong or what's right. Honestly, what feels right for you and whatever you choose to explore. If it feels good and expansive for you, then do it. If it doesn't feel good and expansive for you, then don't do it. And for me, this is kind of how the very extreme aspect of like hedonistic behavior has affected me. I haven't really explored it that much, but yeah, there is definitely a lot of like resistance and I don't even know, like uncomfort with it. I work in a space that is very closely connected to the psychedelic space. In the space that I work in, it is very medicinal and very wisely used, in my opinion at least. And recently I went to this like pretty big Halloween party because it was just Halloween. And the use of drugs is so different and quite intense, and honestly like plummets you into a pretty deep hole, and it doesn't really feel like productive. It just feels like, okay, here we are and this happened and now I feel weird and this way, and now I'm coming down, and I don't know, it's like not that interesting, to be honest. And it's funny, I've always been someone who like seeks out partying and having these like intense kind of like fun experiences, and I've been going to some parties here that are full with like party people and stuff, and I don't know if it's just because I'm kind of getting used to the new community, or if genuinely like I'm just kind of losing that aspect. Maybe I'm just growing out of the aspect of me that finds it so fun. I don't know, but like this Halloween party I went to, I was like, okay, this is fine, but there was so much effort put into it being like a cool party, and all I could say was, this is fine. Like, would I choose to do this again? Maybe if I had nothing else to do on Halloween, but it's not really like that amazing. And I want to tie this into like a bigger aspect of Earth. I again had a very strong psychedelic experience very recently, and when I had this experience, I felt this intense surge of like love and energy and like lightness. Like if you think like the light and the dark, like I definitely experienced energizing lightness and brightness, and like this feeling of like, I don't know, good feelings. And in that moment I thought, well, this is nice and this is great, but honestly I like the darkness too. And again, tying this into like me always having been someone who chases the high, coming to the realization that yeah, feeling high or feeling good or feeling light, like that's great, but that's not all that I want to feel. And feel this kind of love and acceptance and understanding come back for like the darker aspects, the softer aspects, the parts that are hidden. And that was really quite eye-opening for me to just realize that I don't need to chase this lightness anymore. And I think this is a realization that people are coming into with regards to self-work and all the like, because in the early 2000s, I think people were really obsessed with, you know, manifesting and acquiring the things that you want, and it was still quite very egocentric self-work. And this is just honestly a reflection of the world we live in too. It's a very masculine and a very like light-oriented, order-oriented world where we work with very specific laws and systems and very organized and etc. It's not very intuitive or natural or soft or mysterious or any of these kind of more ambiguous qualities. And yes, I think we're going into a society and a personal change, a human change, where we're becoming more aligned with the darkness, the intuitive, the magical, the mysterious aspects of both ourselves, like our subconscious, and nature, and how we can, you know, wind together the light and the dark within ourselves and within nature. Because truly, this isn't something to be avoided or pushed away. It is just something that needs to be understood and understood how to be worked with. And now in the self-work space, I'm seeing a lot more acceptance around your dark sides, acceptance around anger, acceptance around our shadow, and these things that are a natural part of us, but we've been trying to run away from, and we've made bad, we've labeled as unwanted and scary for so long. And this is really a beautiful change and will allow us to see all of ourselves and all of life in fullness, which is such an important step in order to truly live life as it should be, because life isn't just the light. Life isn't just the darkness. It's the interplay between them both. And when we can accept the darkness, we can allow ourselves to truly feel. A lot of people are afraid of feeling their negative and strong emotions, but that's creating more resistance, and the resistance is the most uncomfortable part. Perhaps the most beautiful and satisfying thing we can do is actually choose to feel whatever we are feeling, whether that is anger, whether that is sadness or loss or joy. And I think practicing to feel the loss and practice to feel the anger will help us to practice to let go, to fully feel the happiness when it arises. If we are resisting feeling negative emotions, I believe that's also conditioning us to resist the really positive ones, which is probably why people feel like their life is just flying by, because none of us know how to truly be present all the time. And I don't, for sure, but all of us need to practice together to inspire each other, because regardless of what is in the now is the most beautiful place you can ever be in, even if it is dark, even if it is light, even if it is a mixture of both of them. Being in the now is like where children are seen being. And I don't think I've ever heard of anyone who doesn't miss that innocent and present state of childishness. It's really special, and the beautiful thing is that we can all practice to become a little bit more present and a little bit more like we were as children every day. So, practice being in the now. With that being said, I will see you back soon for the next video. This has been the Loving Revolutionary, and thank you for chiming in. Bye.